Welcome to this webinar focusing on supporting the emotional wellbeing for children and young people. This will be facilitated by Judith Pilkington, Early Years Intervention Officer, and Fiona Purslow, Early Years Safeguarding Officer. The aim of this webinar is to highlight the importance of supporting the emotional wellbeing of children and young people. We will be exploring what wellbeing is, what can impact on children and young people's wellbeing, and how they may respond to situations and events when they feel threatened or scared. We will also consider how we manage significant events and how this can be influenced by we as parents and carers, and think about explore approaches such as the nurture principles, creating a safe physical and emotional environment using the 3 R's, reassurance, routines and regulation to support children and young people's emotional well-being. Firstly, it's important to consider what is well-being. The term well-being can be used to describe our holistic health, including our physical, mental and emotional health. When we have good levels of well-being, we feel that life is balanced and we can generally cope well. We feel motivated and engaged and are able to show resilience and bounce back from life's challenges. What we do know about children's emotional well-being is that children and young people's emotional development and well-being are inextricably linked to both their social and behavioural development. When a child is emotionally stable and secure, they are more likely to develop socially, which will have a positive impact on both their emotional and behavioural development. Also, how safe and secure a child feels can impact on all areas of their development, but can have a particularly negative impact on their emotional well-being. We also know that children's emotional and social development strengthens their happiness and well-being, and it is really important to remember that those first relationships children form with their caregivers will have an impact on them for the rest of their lives. In this slide, we're going to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the bottom of the pyramid, we will see the child or young person's basic human needs. These needs are core to what is needed to function as a human being. They are essential to our survival, and these include but are not limited to food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep, and even the air we breathe. We then move up to children's safety needs. To thrive and live healthy lives, humans need a sense of safety and security. Humans, and especially children, thrive on routines and in an environment in which they feel comfortable. We then move up to social needs. This is about healthy relationships. A life without healthy relationships is not a healthy life. Children rapidly develop, and a caring adult can make all the difference. Healthy relationships can be defined as relationships that are emotionally, physically, psychologically, or spiritually appropriated. We then look at esteem needs. Achievement is part of this. We think of achievement as something that adults seek out, but not children, and this is not true. Children need to achieve just as much as adults do, but their achievements are different and developmentally appropriate. For an example, an achievement for a 5-year-old may be colouring a picture within the lines, which often provides a feeling best characterised by the child saying, "I did it." We then have at the top self-actualisation. This can be quite a confusing phrase, but it's about the child being creative, having fun, and being importantly feeling valued and loved.
It's important how we as caring adults help children and young people respond and manage significant events. These significant events can affect a child's and young person's development, and they can be predictable or unpredictable. We've all experienced significant events throughout our lives, some of which are positive: moving house, starting nursery or a new school or college. Some significant events are not so positive, such as suddenly not being able to go to school or nursery, not being able to see a favourite friend or adult, a family breakup.
One example of a significant event could be the COVID-19 lockdown, which will inevitably have had an impact on some children's and young people's emotional well-being. Regardless of their age, this may be a difficult time for children and young people. Some children may react immediately, while others may show signs of difficulties later on. How a child or young person reacts can vary according to their age, how they understand information and communicate, their previous experiences, and how they typically cope with stress. One thing that is important during this time is that you support and take care of your own and your whole family's mental health.
Change is also a significant event. We all go from denial to acceptance, but at different rates. The speed we move through them will depend on many things, and we can move backwards as well as forwards. Even positive changes can cause us initially to have an emotional response rather than a rational response. Although we are thinking about us as parent carers here, we need to remember that our children and young people will respond in the same way. We need to remember that to move to rational responses, we're able to do this because we have life experiences. We can think and problem solve and plan. We have lots of language and we can talk to families and friends. Our young people and children have less experiences in life, and so for them, managing change can be more difficult. In this slide, we're going to look at how children and young people respond to change and significant events. There are times when all of these reactions, fight, flight, freeze or appease, are absolutely okay and appropriate. If the responses are extreme or different to the usual responses that the child or young person might have made, then perhaps these are signs that the child or young person is unsettled. If a child or young person responds through appeasing you, they may do what they've been asked to do but they don't necessarily understand why they're doing it. They're doing it to please you. For some children, their response will be fight. It will be aggressive behaviour. It will be maybe physical or verbal, maybe oppositional. Some children might freeze. They will become more still, passive. They'll daydream. They'll appear forgetful. They'll maybe not show any emotions, whether it's happiness or being unhappy. Some children will withdraw, so they may respond by flight. They'll withdraw, they'll want to be on their own, they'll avoid company, and they'll avoid joining in. This slide shows us the physical and emotional changes children and young people experience when managing significant events or changes. It's important to remember that they are not able to control these emotions at this time. We need to give them time to settle and calm before we are able to help them manage their responses. We all have a stress bucket. To be able to help our children and young people manage change and significant events and have good emotional well-being, we need to know how we are feeling. During the last few months, there may well have been additional things that have filled our stress buckets more than usual. Loss of support network, a child or young person not going to nursery, school or college, not being able to go out to our favourite places. The list can be endless. You need to know how you stop your stress bucket overflowing so that you're able to help your child and young people.
As you will see from the two definitions, nurture is not only about caring for children and young people's basic human needs, it is much more. It is about providing a sense of safety with those positive relationships. Here we're going to explore the 6 nurturing principles. Principle 1 is about knowing your children well, what they're good at, what they like and what they don't like doing. Principle 2 is about offering a secure base. The second principle is about providing a secure base in which children can feel safe and comfortable. It is vital that the home is a safe base from which the child or young person can begin to explore themselves and the world around them. Principle 3 is about spending time with the children with no pressures. It's about developing a child's self-identity and self-esteem, so lots of listening, responding, sharing, being recognised as an individual to show children that they are valued and thought of in the way that we respond to them by listening and engaging with them at the level that they are at. Principle 4 is about helping children to label their emotions and feelings. This principle is about language as a form of communication. Children or young people may act out their feelings as they lack the vocabulary to name how they feel. An example may be a child who cannot communicate their anxiety because of the limited language skills, so they may resort to aggressive behaviour. In this situation, it is important to support the child to recognise the emotion, empathise, validate, and importantly, label it, and not to dismiss or disapprove of their emotions. One phrase we use for this is name it to tame it. Principle 5 is a child's behaviour is telling you something. As we said, behaviour is communication, which is central to nurture, and it is based on the idea that poor behaviour is always some form of communication. As parents and carers, we need to think about what it is our child is trying to communicate through their behaviour. They may be experiencing emotions intensely and find it hard to cope with feelings and frustrations, fear, doubt, or uncertainty. One phrase that we use to help us remind us about the importance of our connection is the connection before the correction of the child. Principle 6 is about helping children or young people to be ready for transitions. Transitions can be a significant event. This can be a child moving from the home to their early years setting. It can be moving round rooms in an early years setting. It can be moving on to primary school or on to secondary school.
The 3 R's is another way we can support our children and young people. Reassurance. This links back to knowing your child or young person, responding positively to them and their behaviours, spending time with them with no pressures. Regulation. Helping the child or young person understand and manage their responses and emotions to current situations and future changes. Encouraging them to engage in activities that help them regulate their emotional responses. Routine. Routines are important to help them feel safe and secure, knowing when it's bedtime, when it's meal times and daily schedules, knowing when they will see their favourite adult or friend. In summary, we can use the emotional cup to help us understand our children and young people. What empties their cup? Stress, loneliness, tiredness, experiencing failure, yelling and punishment. When they have an empty cup, they steal from each other's cup. They might misbehave to get attention, to refill their own cup. Some children will have bottomless cups that need constant attention. Some feel they need to compete to have a refill. Their behaviour will tell us when they need a top-up. What fills up their emotional cup? Play, love and affection, positive connections, success and routines.
This brings us to the end of this webinar on supporting children and young people's emotional well-being. We hope you found the practical ideas useful. Thank you very much.